Okay, I think we're ready to start. So hello and welcome to our webinar, which is part of our series focusing on critical infrastructure solutions for the data center. My name is Marcus Doran and I'm General Manager for Rahi Systems in Europe. And today we focus on the strategic importance of data center infrastructure management in conjunction with our partner Enlight. On today's webinar, we're joined with the Chief Marketing Officer for Enlight, who is Mark Gaidas. Mark leads the worldwide marketing strategy and execution and oversees a team dedicated to showing the world how DCIM, or Data Center Infrastructure Management, helps people do their jobs more effectively while also providing significant business value to an organization. Gaidas has more than 20 years experience in software marketing, helping technology companies establish leadership and rapidly grow revenue. He previously served as Senior Vice President of Marketing for Engineard and has also held a variety of executive marketing roles at enterprise companies such as Oracle, SAP and Convergent. So welcome, Mark. We look forward to your thoughts. During the webinar, we would welcome the questions and thoughts through our chat box. And at the end of the session, we will try to answer those questions. And for those that we don't address, we'll circle back directly to those. So now I would like to hand it over to Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Welcome to today's webinar titled The Strategic Importance of Data Center Infrastructure Management. My name's Mark Gaidas. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Enlight Software, the leader in DCIM software. Today's agenda, we're going to do a quick introduction to who Enlight Software is, and then I'll talk about the challenges of infrastructure and operations and managing infrastructure and operations in a very complex world, a very complex computing world today. Then we'll talk about the strategic importance of data center infrastructure management and the specific areas that Data Center Infrastructure Management, also called DCIM, can help an organization with. Then we'll talk about specific use cases, and at the end we'll answer any Q&A that's come in or try to get to all the Q&A questions. If you have any questions, please submit them, and again, we will try to get to them at the end. Well, first I'd like to give an introduction to who Enlight Software is. Enlight Software has been in business for over 14 years, and we have over 300 customers worldwide who use our technology. And we are very focused on the success of our customers, and as a result, we have a 98% customer retention rate. We're on the 10th generation of our technology. We have customers who span the gamut from small with 25 racks in a data room to customers who literally have hundreds of thousands of racks across multiple data centers. We're very easy to do business and pride ourselves on that fact, and we have global partners in specific areas and specific regions throughout the world. Although Enlight Software gets used for a variety of different use cases and for specific solutions, there are really 5 core products at the heart of Enlight Software's suite. There's Enlight Energy Optimizer, which helps companies manage the power, the thermal, the humidity, the environment around the assets. And then there's Enlight Asset Optimizer, which really helps organizations optimize how they manage their physical computing infrastructure. So assets like racks, servers, cabling helps manage the workflows and processes around managing those particular assets. We also have Enlight System Utilization Monitoring, which helps monitor the CPU performance of specific systems to help you identify zombie servers or potential performance issues. And then we have Enlight Discovery, which is an agentless discovery solution which finds assets out on the network and finds a rich set of information about those specific assets. And then our most recent product, which is Enlight Machine Learning, which is based on IBM Watson, which allows you to feed in large amounts of data to identify potential issues and potential optimization areas around your infrastructure. And one of the things that sets Enlight apart is it has the broadest suite of functionality. We support what we call the entire dock-to-decom lifecycle. So from goods receiving to provisioning, from when assets come in the back dock to placing them, to the asset lifecycle management, monitoring and alarming, audit and compliance, tech refresh, to the ultimate decommission of assets, Enlight supports all the processes you find in supporting the management of your computing infrastructure. So if a picture is worth 1,000 words, these sample screenshots give a great idea of what we mean when we talk about managing computing infrastructure. It gives you the idea of the types of things that Nlight does. This is just a sample of some of the screenshots you'll find within the Nlight solution. But the key thing is helping companies manage their resources, giving them rack view, 3D rack view, giving them view of their workflows, power monitoring, and other types of areas. So this just gives you a general idea of the types of things you can do with Nlight software. So if you think today, critical infrastructure means different things to different people, depending on what part of the organization you're in, depending on what part of the computing stack you are focused on. So if you back up, there are a lot of groups that say they manage infrastructure. There's an IT operations group, there's ITSM, DevOps, the folks who deal with managing application infrastructure, those who deal with application performance management, APM. You got folks who are managing physical infrastructure, and then there's facilities management. And even below facilities, there are folks that are dealing with coolers, chillers, diesel engines, which might fall under facilities, might fall outside of. But the key thing is Nlight helps provide discipline, data center infrastructure management discipline, and helps automate the management of physical computing infrastructure, and ultimately ties into other systems. For instance, ties into ITSM systems such as ServiceNow, BMC, HP, etc., but also ties into BMS systems such as those of UTC or Johnson Controls. Ultimately, DCIM is not an island unto itself. It ends up integrating with a variety of other different types of systems. But the key is to help automate how you manage this physical infrastructure. And sadly, a lot of organizations are using spreadsheets. They have software to manage ITSM, virtualization, ITAM, and all these areas, and they have software to manage their building management systems, but often they're using spreadsheets to try and manage what are very valuable and very critical resources within data center or co-location facilities. And critical infrastructure is rising in importance, right? Applications are rising in importance within organizations. And the demand for computing power just is increasing, just seems insatiable, right? There are new applications coming online. You've got folks that are using edge computing, and it's growing in importance in order to reduce latency with customers, reduce latency with their applications. Organizations are looking to modernize, and they're really becoming more digitalized overall. We're seeing the rise of things like IoT, Internet of Things, big data, data analytics, machine learning, and it's all driving more demand for computing infrastructure. And co-location is one part of the strategy. Your own data centers may be part of that strategy. And public cloud is also part of the strategy. But none of these by itself completely fills the bill. You're going to have a multi-pronged strategy to support the future going forward. And with that growing importance of computing resources, infrastructure is becoming more critical. And thus, data center infrastructure management is becoming more critical and more strategic in how it relates and how it impacts the organization. And the four core areas where it is impacting organizations from a strategic perspective are in operational efficiency, compliance and security, agility and performance, and insight and decision making. And we'll touch on each of these areas. So the first strategic area is operational efficiency. If you are going to run a lean, efficient infrastructure for your computing resources, you really are going to have software. You're going to have data center infrastructure management. To minimize energy and cooling costs, you're going to want to optimize the use of energy, space, and your assets. And you need software to do that to help people manage the complexities of today's modern infrastructure environments. You want to create intelligent density, right? You want to intelligently increase the density and performance per square foot you're getting out of your computing infrastructure. You're going to want to automate workflow processes. You want to reduce the time it takes for personnel to do their jobs. And you do that by giving them software so it helps them intelligently. The machine intelligently helps them perform their tasks, right? And ultimately, by using DCIM software, you can ultimately delay or potentially eliminate entire new data center or data room build-outs. So this is just some of the ways that data center infrastructure management, DCIM, can help organizations really increase the operational efficiency. And if you're going to compete with the public cloud, if you're going to compete with the other resources out there and provide that level of service cost effectively, you need software to help organizations. The second strategic area that DCIM helps organizations with is compliance and security. By using software to manage your computing infrastructure, you're creating a centralized repository of record of the truth for your infrastructure and how systems are connected together. You're automating sort of your standards and your workflows for how changes are done to that infrastructure so things are done consistently. You're managing and monitoring all those changes occurring at the physical level of your infrastructure to increase the compliance with your policies and ensure sort of the hardened security of those systems. You can also use DCIM to discover assets that have been changed in an unplanned fashion and identify adds, moves, or removals that you weren't expecting. And it monitors changes occurring in the power chain, and we've seen companies who've experienced outages that have made the headlines. And this is not good, obviously, for organizations. And DCIM can really help you harden your systems, especially from a power chain perspective. Another big area for organizations when it comes to their computing infrastructure is to really increase the agility and performance of their organizations. And so using DCIM, using software to help manage your computing infrastructure, you're ensuring that personnel are working with current, accurate information. Spreadsheets and other manual methods get out of sync pretty quick, and it's not uncharacteristics for you folks using manual systems to go make changes, find out the assets aren't where they're supposed to be or they're not the assets, and then it just slows everything down, right? And companies become less agile and performance drops. Right? Using software, it enables you to centralize and allows organizations to collaborate and make sure information is shared and current. It also allows personnel to make decisions more quickly, not only because the information is accurate, but because the machine helps them decide where do new assets go, what kind of capacity planning do I have? Do I have enough power? Do I have enough space? Can I take in those new servers which are coming for the new application? Helps people make those decisions more rapidly. And ultimately, you're integrating that physical infrastructure and workload, or that physical infrastructure information with workload information to understand potential performance impacts from either changes or ongoing operations. So it's a great way, once you map what's going on with your infrastructure to the workloads, to the virtualized area, the virtualization layer, you begin to get that insight on potential issues that could be arising or potential issues that could come from changes. So again, mapping it all together. And the whole thing just more easily allows people to plan and execute things like tech refreshes, migrations, consolidations, and acquisitions when you pick up new companies or new organizations that have to be mapped into the current computing infrastructure. And the last, but certainly not least, area where DCIM can really help an organization from a strategic perspective is to help organizations with greater insight and with their decision making. By using software, you're really increasing the accuracy and the speed of your capacity planning. You're gaining insight into the resources, assets, space, and the interdependencies, very critical, interdependencies between systems. You're understanding the entire technology stack from facilities to power to assets to CPU to virtuals to workloads. Once you have the entire picture, you can make very tactical and strategic decisions more effectively. And you're gaining transparency on what activities and business units are taking the most resources and time from the infrastructure organization. You're improving the accuracy of your chargebacks as a result, And if you take the system and integrate it into the financial systems, you not only get more accurate chargeback, but you can also see if you're paying warranties or you're paying for maintenance on equipment that perhaps is not running anymore. So you can save costs and get a more accurate representation of your costs by tying in with financial systems. So as you look at implementing potentially data center infrastructure management and sort of to help you modernize your computing infrastructure or how you manage your computing infrastructure, we suggest 7 steps to helping you in this process of modernizing your computing infrastructure. First, ensure that the functionality exists to support all the key processes you have in managing your computing infrastructure. As I mentioned before, Nlight is a complete suite of solutions and products to support all the processes throughout the entire dock to decom lifecycle that occurs within a data center or co-location facility. Second, you want to plan for integration because you're inevitably going to want to tie into other systems, whether those are CMDB systems, into your change management processes. Maybe you'll want to tie into your BMS systems. You might potentially even want to tie into your financial systems and planning systems in order to provide information and pull information from there. And many of our customers also tie into virtualization systems to see what actual applications are running under the virtuals and tie those virtuals to the actual physical infrastructure that's running. And then you want to create a roadmap of how you'll maximize your DCIM investment. You'll start small, but we want to see what that roadmap is. Maybe everything won't apply to you, but you want to map out that roadmap of the different pieces of functionality that you're eventually going to get to. That way you increase the overall ROI of the application over time. And related to that, start with the high-value, low-hanging fruit processes. Go over the thing that's going to give you a win, whether that's real-time power monitoring alarming, whether that's basic asset planning or floor planner so that you can show where all the assets are to an auditor, for instance. So pick the processes and the functionality that's really going to have the greatest impact and give you a quick win. Then you want to identify the key data sets that can inform actionable intelligence going forward. You want to see what are the key pieces of data that you need to collect in order to help you inform the decisions you're going to make going forward. And again, related to that, you're going to want to generate dashboards and reports. And there's a great thing that starts happening as you generate these reports people haven't had before. Stakeholders are going to start having a vested interest in the solution. You may only have a half a dozen people who use the system on a daily basis, but you literally could have dozens of people who want to access the dashboards and reports to help do their jobs more effectively. And lastly, you want to continuously inform the organization, stakeholders, and management of the platform's evolution, what you're doing with it, how you're improving it, where you're going towards that ultimate roadmap. And if you do all these things, you will really help the whole process of modernizing how you manage your computing infrastructure. So here are just a few use cases of organizations who are using Nlight's data center infrastructure management to drive strategic benefits, to become more agile, to respond to the needs of the business, to increase the savings of the organization, to defer potential data center build-outs. These are just some of the organizations who are getting benefits from using Nlight. And I'm not going to drill into each one of them, but it gives you the types of benefits and types of strategic benefits that organizations are getting by really automating their computing infrastructure. Whether that computing infrastructure is in their own data centers, in co-location facilities, and managed service facilities, there are a lot of wide benefits and strategic benefits organizations get by really automating those processes with software and allowing software to help personnel do their jobs more quickly and more efficiently. So that was just some of the case studies you'll find on Nlight software. But if you come to our website at nlight.com/resources, we have a lot of use cases. We've got videos, people speaking on behalf of Enlight software and the benefits they're getting by deploying the software. So I'd urge you to come to the website, enlight.com/resources, and learn more from the actual customers who are using, who we are fortunate to serve and provide our software to, and hear it from them firsthand. So in summary, really, critical infrastructure, critical computing infrastructure is growing in importance. We see it all around us, people talking about big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things. The demand for computing infrastructure is doing nothing but continuing to grow. And the growing demand for applications is continuing to enhance that trend. And ultimately, manually managing your computing infrastructure is going to hamper your ability to operate efficiently and rapidly over the long haul. You really want to provide software to help people do their jobs more effectively. Software, the machine, let the machine help personnel make more intelligent decisions and do their jobs more efficiently. And really, DCIM offers a proven path, proven by literally thousands of companies across the globe, as a path to automating how organizations really manage their physical computing infrastructure layer. Many organizations, they've automated ITSM and how they deliver their service management within the IT organization. They've automated their BMS systems. They've got many parts of the business are virtualized, but they're still using spreadsheets or manual processes or outdated solutions to manage that physical computing infrastructure. By implementing a modern DCIM solution like Enlight with a complete suite, you can really enhance the value you're getting out of that computing infrastructure, you can harden it, and you can reduce the costs required to manage the physical computing infrastructure. And the strategic benefits are many, but they really fall under these four main buckets. You increase your operational efficiency, you increase your ability to be compliant with your organization's policies while hardening the systems from a security perspective. You increase the agility of personnel and how they perform their tasks and increase the performance of the systems themselves. And you gain greater insight and decision making with anything that is related to your physical computing infrastructure. Okay, so I'll now turn it back over to our moderator.
Great, thanks for that, Mark. So the first question in, how is Enlight priced or licensed?
Enlight price is really by the value that organizations receive from the solution. First off, we have an on-premises solution. We also offer our solutions in the cloud if you want to take them in that fashion. We support a perpetual license or subscription model, so you can mix and match whether you want it in the cloud or you want it on premises, whether you want it whether you want to take it as a subscription or a perpetual model. And we price by like the value. So in the case of if we're monitoring energy, for instance, we do it on a point basis of the number of assets we're monitoring. From Enlight Asset Optimizer, we typically price by the racks that we're managing. So again, it's all equated by the value we provide, which we ultimately believe the more assets that you're managing or monitoring, the more value you receive. So that's typically how we price the solution. But again, we have a great deal of flexibility in how we accommodate customers. Some want to go with CapEx, some want to go with OpEx. So really it's up to our customers to decide how it works best for them.
And the second question in, Mark, is can you talk to us more about the integration possibilities of Enlight?
Yeah, today probably the most common integration point we find. We do integrate with virtualization. We find a lot of companies want us to integrate with the virtualization vendors and with BMS systems. But I'd say the most common integration points we find today are with ITSM vendors such as ServiceNow, HP, BMC, Cherwell, and so forth. And we have pre-built connectors that allow you to connect with their CMDBs, connect with the change management process. So changes occurring in the ITSM system are punched down into Enlight. Enlight would then take those changes and have them executed, and that information is fed back into the ITSM system. So we, again, we've pre-built connectors to the major ITSM vendors, and it's probably the most common integration we see today.
And question number 3 as Enlight is a suite-based solution, can you give some advice on where one should start when first deploying this DCIM tool?
So where companies decide to start really depends on what pain point is hitting them the most when they begin. So sometimes companies start with managing power. They want to get their real-time power monitoring and alarming up and running first. And sometimes they'll start with assets. They want to get their arms around where their assets are located. We'll start with a floor planner. But because Enlight is really a suite that companies can grow into, we suggest they start with a low-hanging fruit with an area they really want to get under control and grow from there into the other given areas to expand and increase the value they get from the solution. That's partly why you go with a complete solution like Enlight, with the idea that one day you want to expand and increase the value you're getting from that system. Because you've done the deployment, why not wrap in new functionality, new capabilities, and increase the ROI and value you're getting from the system? So ultimately, when we work with organizations, we typically, again, will map out what are the kind of main pain points, the low-hanging fruit, and then we'll map a roadmap with them of what they eventually want to consume in the solution. Maybe they want to integrate with ITSM, integrate with virtualization, with BMS, whatever makes sense for them and the information they want to get their arms around it and what processes they want to automate.
Great, thanks for addressing those questions, Mark. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. I'd like to thank Mark for his thoughtful insight and also to our attendees for their questions. We didn't get an opportunity to answer all of the questions. I can see a few more that need to be addressed within the chat box, but as mentioned, we will circle back to those directly. For more information on today's webinar, please visit our website at rahisystems.com, and we'll see you at our next webinar on the 20th of June in conjunction with Methode, who will be discussing and sharing their thoughts on next generation lithium-ion UPS. So again, thank you for your time today and have a great day.